Welcome back to another episode of Together is Better. My name is Jeff Clark, the CEO of Nitor Partners. And with me today is a very special guest, person that I've known for 15 years now, Mr. Sankar Kaliaperumal. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Jeff. It's always fun being with Jeff. I think we spent the entire day today. We talked about what is going to be the future, what's the transition and transformation is being happening across the world, particularly on the business transformation and technology side.
Yeah.
It's always great to be with, Jeff, and I'm being proud as a CEO, taking next level of the Nitor. And I am actually doing a lot of advisory role now in one of the companies, Kite, and we've been focusing on a lot of innovations. And it's going to be a great conversation today.
Yeah, totally. So here's the great thing about a conversation like this with an old friend is that in a lot of areas we compete. And so kind of the whole purpose of Together is Better is that in a lot of cases, doesn't matter. Relationships are relationships. There's synergies in some cases. In other cases, we may compete. But at the end of the day, this whole podcast that we have is about thought leadership. This is about bringing in experts, people that are fantastically experienced and deeply experienced in source to pay and overall transformations. So, there's really very few people on the planet that are as experienced and as knowledgeable as Sankar. So great to have you.
Thank you, Jeff. Thanks, you very much.
So why don't we start with a little bit of your background, right? You've spent a long time in a variety of different spaces here. Why don't you share a little bit about what you've been doing for the last 20 years?
Thank you, Jeff. And it's coming from you is great. And I know we are being 15 years now, so together. But I spent a lot of my time serving larger customers on the transformation side, right? Mainly on supply chain, finance, and my primary expertise on the procurement side. Mm-hmm. And I see a lot of shifts are happening, right? So I was thinking a lot before I come out from Accenture. So what is next? What we can do it, right? So
because you're advising companies right now.
Yes. Currently, I'm advising more than 2-3 companies. And I know you are my good friend. We talk a lot about it. And one of the companies, Kite, right? I think I told them, don't do just services. How are you going to do the customer value, right? And create a value for it. And companies focusing on innovation and continue doing my journey. I'll see how this goes. But end of the day, I think we are looking after how to better serve for the customers.
Yeah, which is what you focused on a ton.
Correct.
While you're at Accenture. So maybe tell us what the last 20 years at Accenture was like. Like, when did you finish? You recently just left them. When you left, what was your role and what were you doing?
So I was entire Google head for SAP, and also I was heading global source to pay for Accenture. I think it was a great journey with Accenture, actually. I will say that, and brought great customers, great customer experience, great transformation experience.
Yeah.
I think that's where I thought, okay, I think it can be done in a different other way. How can we bring myself in a different angle? So that's where I actually am focusing on now.
Okay, which is great. So what I'd like to discuss right now is, if you look at Accenture, if you look at really the whole system integrator space, consulting space in general, what's the state of the union? Like, where do you think it is today? And then what do you think it's going to be going? Because I'd love to get your perspective on that. You and I've talked about it quite a bit. I think everything right now, personally, and we've talked about this, is about to go through a massive disruption and a huge transformation. What are your thoughts?
Actually, great question. I was deep thinking about this. I think we had a little bit chat on this before. I think if you look at the entire world, you can just see before COVID, after COVID, right?
Great way to describe it.
Yes. So I think things have changed pretty much. Look at the economy, look at everything, right? So whatever we are doing, services industry, particularly in consulting, I think we're still sitting on the 20 years back, right? What was defined as a consulting services. I think SI space has to reinvent it, right? I think you need to bring best in breed for the customers. Number one, most of the customers now they don't do bigger investments anymore. It's a agile investments.
Yes,
right?
phases.
Phases. So if I want to address agile investments, right? So you need to have a right kind of approach to go and add value to the customer. Customers are knowledgeable nowadays. If you talk about Gen AI, they know Gen AI. What additionally as a consultant I'm bringing to the customer
Yeah.
to add value to the customer, right? So one thing I'm thinking consortium approach, right? I think that can be one. I'm being brainstorming this for a long time.
Yeah.
That's on the SI space. Second one is managed services. It's not just a support, right? Managed services, it's more brings what is a continued improvement, what is a continued automation, what is a continued artificial intelligence I'm going to bring it to the customer.
Right.
What's a value add I can do it, right?
Yeah.
So that's more important for the AMS side. And third one I really want to address to you, I think you heard about cloud kitchen, right? Nowadays, doesn't matter which restaurant I'm ordering the food, but
Yeah.
it's coming from the common kitchen,
Yeah.
right? Actually, it gives economical services for the customer, right? I think these are the things we need to start thinking about, not just to continue on the older age of doing the services.
It's about changing the models to be way more forward-leaning than they are.
Absolutely correct.
So you and I have always talked about this.
Absolutely correct.
We look at the system integrator space and we say, okay, you keep looking in the rear view mirror
Yep.
and you're not looking what's coming down the road
Correct.
a mile. Because right now we've got visibility more than we've ever had with AI, with all these other innovations that are happening. And I think to a large degree, a lot of the system integrator community in the industry is still like, okay, we're going to come in and just do a statement of work. Customers require so much more.
Correct.
So when you're talking to a CFO or you're talking to a CIO, what you're basically telling me right now, which I totally agree with, is come to me with how do we go really drive innovation? How do we deploy the next level of technologies? What are some of the other things that they're interested in discussing? It's value too. It's like, how do I capture value?
Absolutely.
Right?
But I would like to compliment what you're saying. I think you're leading into the right direction. More than that, it's not that I'm going to go and implement some COTS product.
Great.
Code out of shelf, right?
Yep.
No. How are you going to bring value to it?
Yep.
Right? What kind of industry specifics gaps you're going to address it?
Right.
So that customer can buy the value. It's no more just I'm going implementing some technology. It's a transformation. How are you going to bring the latest and next generation technology to it?
Yeah.
How do you go towards the platform instead of just bringing some tools and implementing it?
That's right.
That's we are going to talk about the next segment about what you can think about on the next generation implementation model.
So would you say, if you look at COVID as kind of the defining moment, that CIOs, decision makers within businesses, looked at technology and we all lived this, right? Okay, so it's going to be this process implementation, that the holistic view now is changed completely, but what they want to achieve has got to be within in a certain phase, right? So the ROI has got to be there, and then they're going to be built. It's that whole kind of greenfield, brownfield, but more importantly, I need ROI, I need it proved out, I need it stabilized, I need to drive adoption, and then I'm going to go deploy the next thing. But we're going to look at the whole picture.
I call it as a seismic shift.
Yeah, it is seismic.
Seismic shift. But it's primarily, if you look at it, if I implement agile spend, right, the value what I'm getting here, I'm getting an investment for my next release.
Yeah.
Right? That's the way customers are looking at it. That's the way the CFO and the CIO are looking at it.
I agree.
How I'm going to get the value, the first 6 months what I deployed, I'm going to bring the value to the next deployment.
So that impacts partners.
Yes.
It impacts the ISVs in particular. Because,
Absolutely.
So it used to be where you had more decisions that were, okay, I'm going to buy the entire platform. Now, what did we see from that? A lot of them were failed, right? Because they couldn't consume, right? They could maybe do sourcing contracts, but then to try to do it all in one time,
Correct.
It just didn't take off.
Yep.
So now we're seeing smaller pieces of that they're approving and then stabilizing and then adopting.
Perfectly
The
correct.
CFO to me is totally, and this is a good question for you. So who has the power now in a lot of these decisions? It used to be CIO. Sometimes it was CPO, not always. But to me, it seems like the CFO is now the most important person in the entire business. Would you agree?
I agree, but also there is no CPO I will call, Chief Procurement
Yeah.
Officer. I will call Chief Revenue Officer,
Yeah.
right? So how can we make the Chief Procurement Officer as a revenue officer?
Yes.
Who can sit on the same table
Yep.
with the business and finance, make a decision, because most of the things comes from the procurement side. You are spending money.
Yes.
Right? How can you put a right control in play to handle it in a right way and right guided spend,
Yeah.
right? It's going to move to the next topic, what we are going to discuss.
Yeah.
I think I will wait for your question.
Yeah.
What is next, right?
Well, so let's stay on this for a
Yeah,
second,
yeah.
because to me, and I said this with one of my earlier guests, which is that I think that role that you're describing as CPO / Chief Revenue Officer is also Chief Margin Officer.
Yes.
So, either from R&D, how they're sourcing the materials. If you look at the dynamic nature of what happens in sales, right? Price fluctuations, competition, all these other factors, that how they're sourcing that becomes super critical to their ability to drive the right margin.
Correct.
And so they need to be involved in so many more pieces of the process than they previously were before.
Absolutely correct.
Right? So they got a real seat at the table now.
Yep.
Where before, to me, it was, you go back 10 years ago, it was kind of a back office backwater, right? If you're going to be in the procurement side of the business. And I think now they've really evolved into this super mission critical capacity and role. What do you think the organization looks like, though? What do you think the supply chain procurement organization evolves to? There's so many different things with AI and everything else. Does it look like it does? Is in the future? Is it going to look like it is now? Because I don't think so. I think it's going to evolve.
I think you spot on. I think people talk about AI, artificial intelligence. If you ask me, they have a right use cases to address it.
Yeah.
It takes time. I think it's going to evolve,
Yes.
right? So as we discussed how the system integration, managed services, and the innovation needs to be shift, the same way the organization model should shift.
Yes.
Now I'm hearing the next generation operating model goes to pod concept, platform and pod concept, right? So they want to make sure I am addressing in a specific issues and specific problem using my platform and pod concept. I have a budget for just that pod.
Right.
How are you going to continue improve? Then platform looks at everything, and then the pods are addressing the individual problems. That's exactly, it's going to move forward.
Okay. So you're saying, well, let me ask you this then. How will AI unlock that model, or will it, or is it going to take more time?
I think for now, people are using it for mostly on the data.
Yeah.
Right. I'm using a right data, my historic data, and those kind of things. Still, if you ask me, people are ready to use AI for addressing other problems. There is thousands of problems that can be addressed,
right.
But it's carefully they're addressing, crawl, walk, run.
Right.
Now we are crawling on the AI space when it comes to the transformation side.
How long before they start jogging?
I think it takes another year, right?
That's incredible. Though.
Yeah. Another year.
I
think it's at least a walk can be done, because the awareness is created when it comes to, Gen AI. People talk about what is a favorite tool.
Right.
So they actually go to, search for writing emails, generating content, and those kind of things they'll be using for ChatGPT.
I wanted to put together some graphs, some financial stuff for a board meeting I had, and and I just asked. I didn't throw in all the data, right? But I just said, just put together these following attributes, and in 30 seconds, I had a deck that would have taken me like a week to put together.
Absolutely,
it's unbelievable.
Absolutely.
So now you start thinking about that from a category manager standpoint.
Yes.
You start thinking about it from any of these other functional roles within inside of a supply chain procurement finance organization. and the efficiency play of that's going to be amazing. I do think the technology is lagging. So let's move on to
I think I'll talk about one thing. I think
Yeah.
you touched on some of the industries. So one of my friend, a company name called Ocean, right, in India. So I spent the last 1 year on the construction side, right, a construction industry. They do civil construction, interiors, and everything. I think example of that company, they do a lot of steels, cement, and all of them, right? It's like a gold. The market fluctuation will be there for this, commodities. If I use AI in that industry, think about it, right, on the data perspective, and right use cases, I think that's going to be the next level
Yeah.
for that industry. Like that, we need to focus on life sciences. We need to focus on products. We need to focus on media and technology companies, A&E companies. There's a lot can be done on that area.
Yeah, I think every industry, all these different verticals, the vertical specific, industry specific use cases
Absolutely.
is to me kind of like that's going to be the next gold rush, because you got a lot of companies that are real broad, but if they can define what's best in class, all this other stuff, they're going to really take off for sure. So let's talk a little bit about the platform. So in the transformation space, SAP just presented their earnings. Those obviously look really healthy and good, but there's some phenomenal companies that are out there that are certainly nipping at their heels. ServiceNow has got incredible capabilities. They're really trying to redefine things. I watched Bill McDermott, who I worked for. I think is a fantastic leader and a great visionary.
Yes.
He looks at the industry a little bit different. How do you think the big players are gonna do, or how are they currently, I think, structured for the dynamic changes that are about to occur?
I think you nailed it, right? So I think great question again. Number one, most of these ERP companies was missing something for a long time. I know for SAP or Oracle, any of the ERP companies, I think SAP made a right move, right? It's a great move introducing intake management,
Yeah.
right? I think it's introduced as a procurement intake. No, it's not, right? Intake orchestration is
Enterprise.
across enterprise.
Yeah.
Functions like supply chain, finance, procurement, even capital management. End of the day, I want to make sure I have a seamless integration, right? Because my platform is enabled by AI like Jewel, right? Because that's going to give me guided workflow, right? Tell me what I need to do next. I don't want to be a user figuring out something, where to buy what to sell, what to do on my benefits, how do you look at my all kind of a profile things.
Yeah.
I think the platform on orchestration and intake is going to be the game changer for SAP.
If you look at a lot of these, and don't disagree,
Yeah.
and we'll dive real deep into that one. So if you look at like a Coca-Cola, or you look at some of these other massive companies, you got a digital core now, right? So most of them have moved from on-prem to
Yes.
cloud,
Yes.
but they still got 6,000 applications,
Yes.
right, throughout the enterprise, or whatever the number is. Is orchestration and intake, is that the solution to try to digest that information to make it easier for the end user, easier to get value? What's your take on that?
So-
how wide can that story go, I guess?
So I think it's going to be the big story going
Okay.
forward.
The
The reason
disrupting
behind
story.
disrupting big story or next generation story
Okay.
is going to hit entire industry. First, I'm not looking at what system I have, right? As an end user, I want something. Doesn't matter. I need that product.
You want simplicity?
Very simplicity.
Yeah.
Seamless experience, right? That's more, and I want AI to suggest me, Shankar, Jeff and yourself in the same department, you buy the same thing with this price. I want something to suggest me, right? I want guided workflow. Take me where I need to go. Instead of I go, okay, for me, direct procurement, I need to go to one system. Indirect procurement go to one system.
You're nailing the
Right?
heart of the problem there,
It's
which is bouncing.
a problem, right?
Yeah.
As a user, taking a Google as an example, I just go and search it. Then Google take me where I need to be, right? Same thing, you can do that intake management. The orchestration engine, business process, build process automation should guide me which template I need to use it. And I don't know which system I hit, but I need to achieve my.
Yeah. So you don't care how the sausage is made in the background. What you
It's
really
not
want,
my business, right? Before, it's become my business. Oh, there is an integration problem I need to address. I need to go and create a ticket. I need to address that problem. Oh, that's an SAP problem. No, that's an Oracle problem. Hey, oh no, that's an JD Edwards problem. No, that's not my job.
There's entire departments that are structured, cost centers, right, trying to solve specific problems around that. So what you're suggesting is
change.
Orchestration is going to revolutionize
yes, correct.
that in general.
Yes. I look at it as a business problem
Yeah.
instead of I'm addressing some technical issues.
Yeah, for sure.
That's not my job. My job is to buy something, sell something. I want to look at my financial report. I want to look at my inventory management. I want to go and look at my asset. That's my job.
Right.
And my job is not debugging the problem and looking at which system is having which challenge.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So you have SAP, they're going through their own evolution.
Correct.
Right, which, look, over time has been absolutely needed. When I started in 2000, when we got acquired in 2012, this was a massive organization. They were trying to figure out how to get to the cloud. They made all these great acquisitions. I think it was $20 billion over time or whatever it was. The challenge for clients had always been, okay, well, how do I integrate all of this together? And they never really solved that completely. They got way better at it. It always takes time. And I feel like orchestration now is that one thing that says, okay, you've got all these other assets. What we've heard from you is we want to streamline the process. The way you illustrated the end user experience is the right one. I don't care what happens in the background. That's not my core job to be an IT person. I'm a category manager. I'm a supply chain person. I'm in a plant looking for XYZ part to keep the operation running. I just want to solve it.
I'll give a right example. I have an Apple phone. Right?
16, if I might add.
Yes. So
with a great charger.
Don't think I'm rich on this. So look at the Apple phone, right?
Yeah.
I'm using their platform. It's an open source.
Yeah.
Anybody can develop specific problem to be addressed. I want a solution like that.
Yeah.
How many times you go and debug Apple's issue?
No.
Never.
Yeah.
You go and turn the phone and get back the new phone, or you upgrade the phone and move on, right? But all the app, it's open source. I think the intake management is going to become open source.
Is that going to tie in with AI?
Tie in with AI. Yeah. That's where the Jewel's coming in.
Yep.
And additionally, Jewel Suite is coming in. Now, anything you built on service layer and the BPA layer, that will be on the implementation side.
Right.
You are addressing the specific business and industry issues, what needs to be bringing under that architecture.
So what other costs do you drive out of the business with orchestration? Like, what are the other things that are, technical debt, for example, right? Other things that an organization looks at, like if they're going to make an investment decision, what drives it on orchestration? Is it end user experience? It's beyond that, clearly.
Primarily end user experience. Okay. Right, that's number one.
Efficiency.
More efficiency. You are making more speed, and you have a smart suggestion from your AI. I use a smart orchestration. I don't want to call it orchestration, right? It's smart orchestration, and business can make. I want to go and build a marketing campaign. I don't want to search for a lot of other stuff. I know previously I did the same campaign. Why the suggestion is not coming? Somebody did it in Europe. I am searching in US.
Yeah.
I need it in same company. In Coca-Cola is a great example. Marketing spend is a majority of the spend.
Yes.
Right? Because they go very out to the market and doing Coca-Cola marketing. Yeah. But how can we address it?
Yeah. The best branding in the world.
Exactly. For them, I need to go address the problem.
Yeah.
Do you have a solution? That's it.
Yeah.
The solution is going to be the intake
So
orchestration.
you've got pockets of assets, for a marketing example, all over the place, campaigns that have been successful, repositories that are terabytes deep, probably, and then mining that effectively through orchestration through a simple process of here's the 3 or 4 attributes of things that I need, serve it to me, right, in the way that I need it to see. And I don't care what system it's touching. Where
Yeah,
before it was
correct.
25 clicks, it was
Yes.
4 hours of scroll through dozens of files and looking at things. To me, that's going to be super powerful. And I think the end users demand it because the example you gave is the same one I used to sell when I was selling Ariba,
Yeah.
which is extensibility. All right. So, between the network, between the platform, right, you want to be able to just have it plug and play and work,
Absolutely
right,
correct.
and not have to worry about it, even though there was a lot more to it.
And yeah, it's more than
So-
that, additionally, visibility and control.
There you
Right?
go.
How can
Yeah.
I bring visibility and control? And I think that addresses overall perspective. As an end user, I want to make sure when I go to the system, I should not fear of this going to throw the error message for you.
Yeah.
Then I'm going to get the ticket system, enter whatever I needed.
Yeah.
That's no more. That's evolving.
So next kind of question for you. You have intake and you have orchestration. Which is more powerful and which is more important?
Intake is more important, but orchestration is going to be the layer.
That's going to be
it's
the
a
magic behind
magic
it?
behind it.
Okay.
The orchestration is the one is going to tell you what kind of a workflow engine needs to be activated, right? That knows that business process, automation. Then this can call the intake can call your AI, give you all kind of a suggestion. The orchestration is going to tell you, hey Jeff, you have to go to these 2 steps to complete your thing.
Yeah.
Right? It's very important. That's where these both are complement each other.
Could you start with one without the other?
No, it has to be together.
It has to be together.
It's together.
Okay.
So intake is more on Google search.
Right.
Then your orchestration is that backend, what is happening,
Right.
all the integration and the business process being enabled.
So let's take a step beyond that. So let's say they've taken their first step, and I guess the next question I would say is how many companies are now starting to evaluate it and implement some level? There's a lot of competitors that have gotten into this space. Where are we kind of in that maturity cycle? Are we pretty early innings? It feels like it to me. And then what would you say in terms of the enterprise customers? How many of those are starting to evaluate?
Let's we continue to talk about SAP, right? It's our favorite subject.
Yeah.
So I think SAP is in a right time, and because I think the way the message is going out, I have a B2B business transformation platform, right? Business technology platform. Primarily, develop everything on extension in B2B. That's a clean core.
Yep.
On any of your industry specific extension needs to be built in B2B.
Yes.
Now, your intake is going to stay in B2B. Your orchestration is going to stay in B2B. Now, you're not touching anything on the core engine. So now the orchestration and intake is going to guide through which capability, supply chain request, or human capital request, or finance request, or legal request, or procurement request. System will clearly guide it through AI, through the orchestration engine. What you want to achieve, you'll achieve it.
Yeah.
So end of the day, you follow the standard process on clean core.
Yes.
And also you're bringing the extensibility into the tool, what as an architecture SAP is visioning for the future.
Yeah, which I think for a lot of clients, they were a little mystified at first around, okay, BTP, why do I need it? What's it for? How much am I going to either custom build or have a partner build or whatever? It makes a lot of sense when you describe it in those terms, because it's like, look, this is going to be that thread that allows you
Absolutely.
out of your clean core, right, to take that data and then do so much more with it, because the future is going to be built on BTP and SAP without a doubt. Right.
I think if I remember 2-3 years back, Christian Klein was in the keynote speaking, right? He clearly said, go with the public cloud, grow with SAP. And his next point is, I want to start with the clean core. It's like it's it's
Well, it makes
magical
sense.
word.
Right.
Because
Not easy to do.
I'm being doing from 3.1H. Don't think I'm old, but
Yeah. Yeah.
3.1H. We did a big customization into the system, right? Thousands of thousands. And when you go for upgrade, you always have a challenge. You know, I don't know, you remember core modification versus the extensibility in all
Yes.
things.
Yeah.
I think SAP came into the right direction using SAP B2B.
Yeah.
Don't develop anything apart from what you have in enhancements in the core system.
Yeah.
Keep the clean core. Then anything you do it in B2B, connect all the system where you want to do it.
Yeah.
I think it's a great way to move it.
Yep.
I think that's the idea now they currently launched procurement intake. So when I talked to the leadership, I clearly said it's not a procurement intake, it's an intake orchestration across everything. But
It's
start
starting
from
here.
procurement.
Yeah.
Because procurement is a feeder to all other capability area. So I
Right.
go direct procurement touching to the supply chain. Now I'm bringing supply chain in.
Yeah.
By direct procurement, I'm touching to the finance. I think it's going to be the game changer even for SAP.
I think so too. I think they've made the right bet. I think the market, the competitive side of the market, if you look at what Bill McDermott just mentioned out on CNBC, he did a great interview. He's so good at at describing things in very simplistic terms. He challenged kind of that architecture and what happens in orchestration, and I think it resonated with a lot of people. But then you have all these other competitors as well. I think everybody's kind of figured that out, which is the core is going to be the core. The innovations and a lot of the orchestration, the intakes need to happen outside of that. And then the evolution is going to occur, just really out here. Now, what's interesting for SAP's model, and I think it makes a lot of sense, which is let's have a lot of partners
Correct.
have a capability to develop on that. What are you guys thinking, or what are you seeing in BTP and the ability for customers to do custom, design and innovation on their own and have partners lead that?
So they give an architecture, right? SAP,
Yep.
BTP, that intake architecture we call, right? They already started working on it, releasing, officially
Yep.
in December. As a partner, so that's where when I advising Kite, I was telling them is stay on SAP's architecture. Don't deviate from that. That's number one.
Yep.
Number two, as I showed you in Apple, now it's become open source. Now you understand the industry, you can build the templates,
Correct.
build the right workflow, build right orchestration engine, right connection to your AI. Anything can be done, right? That's where the partners are going to make. When I go back now, my conversation 10 minutes back, what I was telling, the services industry is changing.
Yeah.
No more you go and get the COTS product and implement. No,
Yeah.
that is changing. Now you are addressing the business problem and creating a business value for the specific customer.
Yeah. And it could be in two ways. So instead of, okay, I'm going to go take that software package, here's the standard design implementation template. It is, okay, we're going to do a component of that. We're going to add in these other orchestrated workflows of the legacy platform pieces that you have. And then we're going to build in some custom BTP technology on top of it to make it suited to your industry or your particular business. Then things are going to be harmonized, in my opinion, and
Correct.
work way better. How long is it going to take for that to really happen? Is it happening now? Is it happening fast enough?
I think most of the customers start thinking about it.
Yeah,
Because
I've seen budgets starting to lean
the
towards that
reason,
too.
I think we are also moving into a couple of customers, but it's more on creating awareness.
Yeah.
Right. And customers knows that they need a platform. The platform can address enterprise platform, which can address across their organization. It's very important. I
Yeah.
think that is being happening. Most of the customer, what we are facing now, right? When I go with some of my known companies, I'm talking to them. All the CIOs and CFOs, they've been talking about what is a single solution, what kind of orchestration. I'm hearing this, what kind of advisory you can give it to us. I think that's where
Right.
it's like a AI, Gen AI and
Yeah,
AI.
there's a lot of interest,
Interest.
a lot of questions.
Yes.
right? And I think the jury's still out.
Yes.
Just like with AI.
I think when I said, I think it is going to be crawl time now, right? I think it's the right time. I think it's a announcement coming in December, official release. I think this is the right time for them. I think don't want to go more technical, but I'll tell you, there is an SAP built store. There is an SAP store.
Right.
The SAP build store, you can do all kind of your templates. So industry specific templates. I'm going to life sciences or I'm going to aerospace and defense. I'm developing specific template for the orchestration that can be downloaded, used for other customer, right? And you being paid.
Yes.
So that's where your services is going to be occur, right?
Right.
Like your Apple model, now you're doing it. Same thing, SAP store, you build an app, you publish there. So anybody can go and implement.
Let me ask you about the store, just since we're on that subject. Just like the App Store, it gets crowded, right? Do you feel like the store is, if you're going to go, everybody, especially if you're going to go through a build process as a partner, you're deploying capital, right? You're looking for an ROI. What's the secret sauce? I guess is it to have this? Is it better to be on the build store, do you think, or is it better to build some other enhancement app?
Build store is one thing, but I don't want to address small problems.
Yeah.
A build store, I will use it more on business problems, major business problems, business gaps.
Ubiquitous ones
Yes.
that are wider all across
Otherwise,
a particular industry or something
your
else?
value is diluting.
Yeah, I agree with you.
What time you spend. It's like App Store, right? There are 10,000, 20,000 apps are there.
Yep.
But you download specific apps because you have the business value for that.
Yeah.
End user want to use it, right? WhatsApp is a great example, right? Everybody phone has the WhatsApp. How can you make your product like a WhatsApp, addressing the specific problem? It can be for a specific industry or is for the specific problem when it comes to the business perspective.
Yeah, I agree. It's interesting because for a long time I thought the App Store from SAP was so far behind, like the Force.com, and some of the other, like,
It would have been better organized.
It's gotten much improved,
Yeah.
for sure. What about the business network? What's your thoughts on
It's
that?
great. I think there are a lot of changes being happened. I think customer not able to kind of observe those changes right yet.
Yes.
Ariba network. Then they brought other network. They
Asset
brought another network,
logistics
right?
network.
Then rename it to the business network. It took us a lot of time. When you ask me, I think 7 years back, there's a chief revenue officer from Ariba. He clearly mentioned cell phone without SIM card, right? So yeah, you can have a beautiful cell phone. It doesn't matter it's an S4 or it's an Ariba or any other system, Oracle. Business network should be there, right? But think about it. There is an app I suggested to develop. It's a more on partner to manage, supplier to manage their own product.
Yeah.
Right? Through business network.
Yeah.
I think that's where you're adding more value to it.
I can agree. Like, my frustration with the business network for a long time, and I was one of the originals on the business network back in 2008. Shout out to Ken Stanek if you're happen to watching this, or Eric Washer, or some of these other guys, John Louis. Phenomenal concept. But, if you went back even a couple years ago and you looked at it from the supplier point of view, it was still so cumbersome, and just there was so much more they should have innovated on early. I think now it's got full attention, and now it's it's ingrained in S4. It's taken its rightful place. I think it was underinvested in for a while.
I think a good start with that. I will say a lot of customers, we implemented business network upfront, get the value. If you want to show the value, get the business network upfront.
You had to.
And that investment, whatever benefits you're getting, that can be applied for your S4 transformation.
Yeah, well, that's how I think the smart companies are doing it that way in a lot of ways. It's interesting because SAP strategy now, we just talked about grow, is okay. Let's move core, for mid-market, high growth, lower large enterprise, and let's focus on the grow program. I would argue that the LOB and the network needs to go first because it is the hardest to dislodge. It takes time to drive value, but once you get it, the value is significant. And to your point, it can self-fund the deeper investment into, ERP transformation and some of the other programs. So, I think every company is going to be different. I think they're all going to look at it in a different way, but it's really a great beachhead. If you're SAP and you're an SAP client, say, okay, we're going to wade into that. Let's do that real well. Let's get that going. And then we can do asset network, logistics network. I think the jury's still out on those two. I think the logistics network.
I will say asset network, a lot of customers, they already have their homegrown application.
Yeah.
I will say start from something quick, right?
Yeah.
It can be network for indirect material collaboration, direct material collaboration, then inventory management. Then asset can be at the last, right? Once you show them the suite of integration with the trading partner, with the supplier, that's a one thing to start. Second one is sourcing and contract management. Can be deployed, within 2 months, 3 months, get the value out of it. I think these are the value levers, I will say, business value levers. Those who are looking at to get the value out of it, I want to go and get approval for my S4 transformation. I think these are the areas can be focused on so that they can get the value and apply towards your S4 transformation.
Yeah. Well, and then orchestration touches all that.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So, certainly such as sourcing.
I'm excited. I'm telling you, I spent almost 2 days on the workshop. I clearly worked on kind of a model. I told these guys, right, this is the game changer. You put all money on this, you will be successful. So I want to add value. So that's where I am. But I know you are in big boy now, so, Neater CEO. And I just want to know what you guys are thinking, for the next couple of years. Well, I know there is a lot of challenges. I know you guys are doing great job and, connected well. Our journey was amazing. And I still remember a lot of things, what happened in, Intercontinental Hotel and Coca-Cola and other stuff. I just want to understand your journey, how's happening, what's happening.
The way I kind of describe what we're doing right now is a little bit of what I mentioned earlier. When I was on the license side of, the technology stack for my entire career, the system integrator was never really, to me, a valuable partner until a certain point way down the line. And I certainly always wanted to have the right partner because I wanted the right deployment so that my customers would adopt. A lot of them dropped the ball, right? You guys did a great job with me, and that's why you and I worked together so successfully for so long. But, I think the models needed to change, just like everything else. We're in a massive disruptive period. I think it's time to reinvent, not just procurement, which orchestration and what you're doing is doing, but also how the partner community serves partners like SAP and clients. So we focus a lot on upfront advising the client on what are those technology decisions that they need to make, and then how do they actually drive adoption. So thinking about that before they even sign and go forward with a ISV partner of theirs. So for us, it's about changing the dynamic of the conversation. It is about thinking about the end in mind. It is about month 3, 6, 9, and 12 after a deployment, because a lot of times they may make decisions during that deployment that they think were actually the wrong ones, right? It didn't drive the value. To me, it's the same conversation.
Correct.
How do you drive value and how do you stay relevant in an ever-changing procurement and source-to-pay environment? And my personal philosophy is AI is going to completely take over everything in indirect over time.
Correct.
Those decisions should be automated.
Absolutely.
They're non-strategic in general. Direct and category managers that have deep knowledge, those people are going to be super valuable. And I think the chief procurement officer becomes the chief margin officer. So I'll change a little bit of what you said to really make sure that the business is driving margin discipline and success. And I think you're also going to see teams of data scientists. You're going to see algorithms that are going to start being custom built
Yep.
on use cases.
Correct.
And tied in with orchestration and intake. So I think we're in a transformation period. So for me, it's a very dynamic time. We're focused a lot on just customer outcomes. That's it. And if we continue to do the job that we're doing today, which is, high referenceability, high experience levels, being challengers and thought leaders, then I think, the rest of it's going to just evolve around us. But we're trying to lead the pack.
Excellent.
Right.
Great.
Think differently.
I know
than
you are
everybody else.
there, definitely.
Yeah, I don't
you are
like
a
the
visionary.
status quo. I never have. I think it's boring, right? And I kind of feel like we've kind of come into our own now.
Absolutely.
Where it's like, okay,
Absolutely.
For everything that you've accomplished in your career, which has been tremendous.
So I
crazy.
had a great career, right? Thanks to all the leaders I've been worked a long time,
Yeah.
right? So I learned a lot in Accenture, learned a lot with all these customers. I just looked back, number of countries I travel, number of companies I transform. It's a great experience what I been actually. This year I'm just looking for myself.
Yeah.
What else I can do.
Yeah.
I'm just giving some advisory to few companies, but one is Kite, as I told you. But my advice is more on don't go and simply thinking about implementation.
Yeah.
Just go and do level 1 to level 5 managed services. Think something unique. You just go innovation mindset. You have to add a value to the customer. If I want to tell, I think that's where I started. There is no major 20 million, 30 million, 50 million, 100 million projects.
No.
It's a very agile.
Yes.
I'm getting a value for this $2 million, the value for the $5 million. How are you going to add value as a services company?
Yeah.
And that's more important. Now, as I said, the customers are more knowledgeable.
Well, you make the best point because our mindset is customer for life.
Yes.
Because if you're truly looking with that in mind, right, that you've got to help that customer succeed in that first phase. If you're doing it well and you're a very successful and trusted partner, you're going to stay with them, right? And I think that's where the companies are going to be separated from the great ones and then everybody else that's left, in the past. And so that's our mindset. So adoption is huge for us.
Correct.
We bring that in the beginning of the conversation, like I mentioned before.
And you don't want to implement a customer and leave.
No.
Right? You have to implement customer, stay there for longer. Yeah. Make sure your adoption is correct, right? You don't want to be in that way. I think one of the presentation I did in Copenhagen, I clearly said to SAP, it's all start from customer trust.
That's it.
Right?
Yep.
Same thing in your, as a CEO, you understand it's an employee trust.
Yes.
Right? How are we creating all this trust? And that's the way you get the repeat business.
Yep.
Always, if you have a repeat business, repeat services, they need to think about the X company. I want to bring it back.
Yeah. That's the foundation that we've always had, right? Working together as long as we have, it's based on that mutual trust, that partnership. And I agree with you. I think you have to have that mindset, that long-term mindset. We've made, one of the first challenges that I had actually becoming a CEO for the first time, I had inherited a deployment with a client that was totally off the rails. And, I went in the CPO and, I objectively looked at it and I said, hey, this part right here was totally our fault. But that part over there was yours. You understaffed it. You didn't have the right expectations. That's also on us. But how do we collectively solve the problem? And it was a loss leader. We lost money on it, a decent amount actually. But it's the right decision to make. And I said to him, I said, look, if we get through this adversity together, right, and I stay with you through it, right, which is my commitment, knowing that I'm losing money, because I could just walk and say, hey, it's your problem now. I want to have that long-term relationship and I want that reference from you as well. And it's one of our best references today because all these, a lot of these projects, they stumble, you're going to hit some snag somewhere. And it's really kind of how you work through that together. that kind of forges you a little bit differently to where you're like, okay, I trust that person. The chips were down, our teeth were kicked in, and that person stayed there with us to get through it. So,
Correct.
and I think you're going to see a lot of that now with,
I think when you walk into the door, they should not see the sales sticker on you,
exactly.
right?
Yeah.
If they see sales sticker on you, customer, definitely you lose
Yeah.
trust.
Yeah.
I think they have to see I'm walking in, he's bringing the value,
Yeah.
right? That value definitely brings automatically the services, what you need to
Yeah.
perform. That's a comfort and confidence we need to give. That's why I always tell the sales team, you have to make sure, create a trust first.
Yeah.
Before that, I have a laptop I want to sell. No,
No.
that's not your storyline.
Yeah.
So build a trust,
Yeah.
build a relationship. Then you can see the value how you are bringing to the customer. That's the way your sales starts from there.
Yeah. I think the whole model of selling is going to change as well for
Yes.
software vendors,
You got it.
right? In
You
a
spot on.
major way. I think some of the decisions are going to be taken out of salespeople's hands.
Yep.
I think that as a career, it's always going to be an important career path to a degree, but they're going to have to be super knowledgeable. I think the AI will help guide some of those decisions as well. So again, I think disruption is the name of the game of till the end of this decade for sure. I think all the legacy models are going to be challenged significantly.
I think the way you said is very good on the sales side. The problem for the sales team, majority of the companies, they don't understand what they're selling.
Yeah, they don't understand the value,
Yes.
right, and how to articulate that
And
at a
they
level.
need to know better of their products also. That's
yeah,
more
for sure.
important,
Yeah.
right? I think for SAP side, if I want to talk about it, if you don't know grow, if you don't know rise, hard for you to understand and sell
Yeah,
your ISBM
Yeah.
solution.
yeah,
You have to learn. I think every day learning what you're going to position as the value, it's going to be important for.
well, and it's either that or you got to have a partner that really knows it.
Correct.
Right.
Absolutely.
And Nitor is the best at
Yes.
that. And you guys and other things as well. So that's awesome.
Great. So I think for the closure, I really want to talk about a couple of things.
Sure.
One, I started in the early. We are still sitting on a older chair of services mindset.
Yeah.
This is changing. That's where I give an example of Crowd Kitchen. So doesn't matter. Your brand will be there, but cooking can be happen anywhere, right? But the cooking should go with your flavor, right? So if I need a
They
12
need
inch
spice. A little
and
turmeric of
everything,
this.
exactly.
Yeah.
So every restaurant has their own flavors, own menu, but the kitchen can be common.
Well, the
Right?
recipes then.
Yes.
Right?
Recipe also, right?
Yeah.
Same thing, even the business value side on the sales side, you can still do consortium to give a value to the customer. End of the day, the customer value mindset should be there for any of the services company. That's the number one. Number two, the disruption is started happening. If you are not adopting, you're out of the business.
So would you say then the consortium approach is one of those other disruptive models,
Yes.
which kind of bleeds into together is better,
Yes.
right? In a lot of different ways.
Correct.
You and I have talked about this as well too, which is you have a lot of different similar companies with maybe their unique attributes, which is the flavor or the spice that you're describing, but everybody's trying to call on the same clients. They're all trying to get the same budget. At some point, it makes sense to have a consortium of those together, to have a unified value proposition.
Absolutely.
In some ways, with defined rails on where we might compete. But at the end of the day, that is a very strong message to provide much higher value, much more efficiently from both a cost to sales standpoint for us as partners, but also to the client in terms of time, right? So it's like, look, these are the different things that you can and should be doing.
Absolutely.
These together provide a
Absolutely.
tremendous story at
That's
the
it.
application layer, at the services layer, right? We're gonna figure out who the best is for each, and then you have other decisions that you can make. But these are the fundamental building blocks, if you want to
Yes,
call it, of the
yes,
value.
yes.
And then you can decide what other spices you want to add in.
Absolutely.
Whether it's one of the companies you're advising, my company, or somebody else. And then it's up for us to figure that
Absolutely.
out.
Yep.
Yep. That is a
Great.
great model for the future.
Absolutely. So I think people has to start brainstorming this, and I'm also doing a lot of brainstorming how this is going to work for the future.
Yeah.
But like the changes happening on the technology, changes on the business side, and also on the services industry,
Yeah.
need to rethink about everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
Great, Jeff.
Thank
Great
you.
talking to you. But,
Always my friend.
It's always best.
So good to see you.
Thank you.
Yeah, buddy. Thank you. All right, so that wraps it up. I just want to say thank you again to Sankar for another great episode of Together is Better. And you can, of course, watch us anytime if you click on the link below, and we'll take you out to our full form, or you can catch us on Spotify or YouTube. Thank you.
Thank you.